Great. Well, first off, everyone, thank you very much for having me here. Also, a big thank you again for being back promptly. I'm rushing out of here as soon as I've finished. I have to go to Hamburg via Paris, so I'm very grateful for the extra minutes you've given me to get to the gate. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about sort of how do we build our brands in a digital world, and how do we create sort of awareness and consideration, which are sort of the prime upper funnel metrics among our customers, in order to get them to buy more stuff from us, which is what we want them to do. And how does digital change that game? I'm very cognizant that some of you are sort of from more old school brands, and that you've sort of, by which I mean you've been around for more than 20 years. But we've also got quite a few of you are very much the new school of brands. And you've grown up in a different world, and you've grown up probably with much more of a customer acquisition focus, a much more performance background, in which case this stuff's just going to be a doddle to you anyway. So I apologize to those of you who just sit there and say, we do this every day. But I think the key thing, and first off, congratulations to Patrick for coping with technical failure so well. But one of the things that comes through, and I often find when I speak to people, is that they feel a bit overawed. They go, wow, there's all this stuff. Brands have got to be content managers, and we've got to be able to hold dialogues, and we've got to do all these different things. And I like to reassure people that you have the skills in yourselves, in your teams, to really succeed in building your brand in a digital age. You know your customers brilliantly. You know what makes them tick, why they buy, when they mail you and go, this was fantastic. Equally, you've read every single complaint they send you. You can tell fantastic stories. You really can bring to life what your company stands for in a way that makes people stand up, look, and listen. And that's essential, and that's not going to change whether it's analog, digital, or something else which someone invents tomorrow. You're always going to have to be able to present your best possible self. And you've got a really good idea of what works. If you're a performance business, you will see it on the tills straight away. If you're a sort of a traditional branding orientated business, you will still see growth in brand equities. You will see footfall in stores. You will get calls from dealers or from stores saying either footfall's up, or when your stuff's not shifting off shelves, right? And those are the skills that you need, because branding at the end of the day is about selling stuff. It's lovely to be really creative and really wacky and all those things, and that's great, because actually that is synergistic with being successful. But at the end of the day, we want to sell stuff, and that's what you guys already know how to do well. So take that forward with you into the new future. I'm a huge fan of this book. Who here's read How Brands Grow? Yeah, lots of hands going up, some hands going up. The rest of you, go and read it. Right? There's a lot of fluff about what makes brands successful. How Brands Grow is based on science and a deep, deep analysis. But for those of you who don't want to read it, because it's pretty thick and quite turgid, I've done a speed summary for you. And essentially what Byron Sharp says, find potential customers of the category and light users of your brand. Speak to all of them, often, especially as they approach purchase, and make it easy for them to remember, find, and buy your product. Right? Now, that sounds just like logic, doesn't it? Right? Woo! But there are a couple of important things in there, so I'm just going to quickly break them out for you. The first thing is potential customers of the category and light users of your brand. Note he didn't say fans. Right? And what you will notice is your fans are already massively exposed to your brand. They already love your brand, and they will eat as much of it as they can, or buy, or stay, or whatever it is you do. Right? But it's the people who are using your competitors' brands, or the people who are entering the category who are not using your products, who you need to win over. And in every single case, the brands that grow, the brands that are successful, are the ones who are best at winning those people. Right? So those are the ones you should focus on. So it's a myth that you focus on the people who buy a load of my stuff and all of my stuff all the time. Those are the ones, they're going to come to you anyway. The ones you need to win are the light users of your brand and potential users of your category. You need to speak to all of them. Right? There's a great phrase about segmentations. Who here uses segmentations? Yeah, everyone has a segmentation. That's a good thing, right? It means that you're looking at your customers to say, where does the value lie? But it means that you have to use those really, really wisely and understand that you've got to cover all of that value. If you over-segment, and I've seen this, it's a bit like taking a taking a cow and hacking at it till you're left with a steak, right? And all the rest of that value gets thrown away. So do not over-segment, speak to all your potential customers, but understand the relative pockets of value. And then this last part, if you read the book, Byron Sharp talks about mental and physical availability, by which he means, can people remember you and can people buy you? Mental availability is what we would call awareness and consideration, or a consumer would just say, well, if I say car, what do you say? And they say BMW, that's mental availability. And that's what drives purchase, and that's what drives people to then consider and go and take action. So that's branding in a nutshell for you. That's certainly where we're coming from. What's fantastic is, if that's how brands are built, and they're always going to be built like that, the problems haven't actually changed. It's just the tools that you use to attack those problems have. So if you're a brand or you're a growing business, you're going to need to be able to say, how do I find my customers? How do I find more of my customers? I've got loads of competitors. How do I stand out? And then once I've done that, how can I make sure I'm doing it at a scale that really covers all of my potential customers and light users of my brand? It's no point just talking to a quarter of them. A story I always tell is I worked on L'Oreal on hair coloring, which is quite good fun because I don't wear makeup and I don't have hair. But what was really interesting is they targeted women 25-45. What I could tell you was that actually that only covered 41% of the hair color market. Right? The other 59% of women who colored their hair at home were outside of that age group, and also 19% of men colored their hair at home. So just women 25-45, while it's the sweet spot, they needed to understand the entire market. So how does technology help us address this? Well, we can address this in three ways. We used to just use blunt demographics. Now we can actually find people who we know are our customers, really qualified people, leads, if you want to call them that, who have the potential to be our customers. Once we've found these people, we can create tremendous impact. You know, Patrick will have spoken about fantastic creative examples that really stand out. You know, go and watch television tonight and sit through the ad breaks, and you'll see a whole load of creative examples that really don't stand out, right? And they're trying really hard to do something, but they're not cutting through. We can help you with that cut through. And then what we can make sure is that that is delivered at a scale that's going to drive your business. So let's think a little bit about our customers. How do we find them? Well, we tend to use demographics, but as I mentioned, with L'Oreal, I think that's a pretty blunt tool. It's working on stereotypes. And what perhaps we need is a way of thinking a bit beyond just how you might describe someone and look at what they're doing. Please would you roll the video?
Your mom's a terrible driver. That's not my mom.
Hey, I'm sort of your mom. We're both 25 to 35 years old. We're both women on the go, and we both clocked a lot of miles. Believe me. Whatever, I'm out of here.
Sort of you isn't you. Only Esurance has coverage my way. It helps make sure you only pay for what's right for you, not someone sort of like you. That's insurance for the modern world.
Brilliant.
Esurance, backed by Allstate.
And what's interesting about Esurance is they make a little chip that you plug into your dashboard. It records the signals from your car, and it tells them how well you drive. And based on that, they adjust your premiums, right? So they're actually using technology not just to define their communication, but their business. We can actually get all of those signals from our consumers, and we can use them to define people who really are potential customers of our brands and categories, are not just sort of like potential customers of our brands and categories. And I think that's really important. So what are they? Well, the good news is that the stuff we wished we could do when I started out 20 years ago is a reality today. We can actually go and say, who's actually in market for my product or service? Who's actually looking to book a holiday at the moment? Who's looking to buy a car? Who's trying to lose weight? All of those things are actually transparent to us and available to us as information, and we can target those people. Equally, we can go and say, actually, this person's a really good customer of mine, but we haven't spoken to him for a while. How can we get back to that person? I can think of, I travel quite a lot. I booked a holiday for my family through a website. After I booked, they pestered me for 2 weeks. You know, please, would you like to book a hotel in Bruges? Book another hotel in Bruges. I've already booked one, right? And then I haven't heard from them since. Not a word, right? I've probably had 50 hotel nights between now and then, right? So they haven't said, this person's a light customer. How can I actually get back to this person and really make him love me and give me all of his business? And then equally, once you've found someone and you say, this is someone who I know is profitable, I want to find a load more people who don't look sort of like that. I want people who behave exactly like that. We can go out and we can find them in their millions to drive your business. So this is stuff which, if you'd have made it up 20 years ago, they'd have said it's never going to be possible. And actually now it's available, but it's available for free. Right? You can just do it on the Google platform without having to pay a penny for it. So let's think about that. So we always think about who's in market for products. Well, the obvious thing is Google search. Right? People search for stuff that they need. But actually, we do go deeper than that. We look at consumers and we produce, the best way to think of it is custom algorithms. We look at people and we say, what kind of websites are you going to? What information is on those websites? How does that indicate what it is you're trying to do? If you're on a website and it's got a lot of cars on it and there's a lot of financial points on it, the chances are you're in market. But we don't have mass thresholds. We have individual thresholds for individual users. So if you only spend an hour online, but 45 minutes of that is spent looking at car websites, that's a really good indicator of what you're going to do. Right? And what's brilliant about that is it allows us to add to what we call an intent signal, but we can add many, many more signals to that to qualify the customer. And we have a fantastic case study from Mazda Mazda have an interesting problem. Awareness and consideration for cars is really driven by units in operation, number of cars on the street. Mazda make great cars, but they have very low market share and they have small marketing budgets. So they're never going to be able to compete with the likes of VW and L'Oreal. But what they did say, so we're not going to compete right at the top of the funnel. We're going to find people who are already entering that funnel and we're going to compete for their attention just that little bit lower down where we can focus our budgets. And by using these signals, they managed to find 500,000 potential customers, so people who are in market for cars, and advertise to them and generate 10 times the leads they would normally generate from running just a broadcast campaign. So that's a great example of someone who's used signals to say, I can't speak to everyone, but actually at any point in time, 94% of people are not potential customers. So I'm going to use this information to push them out of my equation and focus on people who are in market at the moment. But what we can also do is we can allow the consumer to interact and tell us a little bit about what they want. So I always say the one person who knows the most about what I want, apart from my wife, is me, right? And this is a great ad from Superdrug. And essentially, what they're doing is they're going out looking for people who are looking for discount cosmetics. And the best thing to do is potentially to ask them. Please, will you roll the video?
Right now at Superdrug, there's better than half price Nivea and Soleil Sun Care. That's it. You can watch the Dogs and Cats video now. Go on, I told you about the great offers on sun cream at Superdrug, so you can press skip. Skip off, or whatever it's called. Oh, no, wait, there's also great prices on the Beat Wax range. Brilliant. Right, you definitely can't skip off now. What are you waiting for? What, another offer? Okay, let's see, there's 3 for 2 cosmetics, and there's Rimmel Sun Trimmer for $2.99. But if you want any more, you've got to go to superdrug.com. Enjoy the Dogs and Cats video.
So you get the gist, yeah? Right. So I'm assuming everyone has knows what TrueView is and knows how it works? Put your hand up if you do. All right, no, I went for the more difficult one, because if I said if you don't, no one would put their hand up at all. So exactly that. So what she's actually saying is, if you don't want to buy discount cosmetics, please leave. I have nothing for you. I'm a discount cosmetics store. I want discount cosmetics people. Please go away. And what's wonderful about that ad is by getting rid of the false positives, Superdrug can actually issue that invitation to as many people as they like, because they only pay for the people who stay. Right? And that's quite interesting. When Google launched TrueView, they did something really smart and really stupid. They invented TrueView, which I think is a transformational ad product, and then they marketed it as an ad you can skip. And for those of you who come from the traditional world of advertising, the last thing you want in the world is for a consumer to skip your ad. Right? In fact, what you want to do is you want to nail them to the floor in front of the television with their eyes open and play your ad at them until they sort of die or their head explodes. But what's fantastic about this is it's a way of actually going out and saying to people, I'm offering to engage with you. Are you interested? If they say no, you say, no problem, no harm, no foul. I haven't wasted your time. You haven't wasted my money. We can all go our separate ways. But the moment someone says, oh, actually, I'm quite interested in discount cosmetics, you go, wonderful, let me show you something. And at 30 seconds, TrueView drops a cookie so I can come back and talk to you again later. And so this week was discount shampoo, next week it's discount conditioner, et cetera, et cetera. You can see where that goes. That's wonderful because it means that Superdrug can talk to the 5% of the population who are in market for their products and near to a store, versus trying to talk to 95% of the population who really do not care about discount shampoo. The important thing about all of this is that we're targeting people based on behaviors, not declarations. And that's really important because what you find when you go and ask people, if you were to ask me, Dave, how much do you weigh? I'd go, 14.5 stone, 15 stone. Actually, obviously, I probably weigh a bit more than that. Equally, when you go to someone and say, how much do you earn? If they don't make much money, they tend to inflate that number. If they make a lot of money, they tend to deflate that number, right? So when people declare information, they tend not to be truthful. They give you the information that they want the rest of the world, of how they want the world to see them, rather than what they're actually doing. But behavior can't lie. Right? Your behavior is what you do. And if we can use that behavior to say, based on their behavior, this person probably wants this, then that is a much, much better signal to be working with. And it enables us to find people who genuinely are your customers. And that brings us new opportunities. What would you do if you were a bank and I can actually start to differentiate among my potential customers and identify, well, who are the people who might be my current customers already? If you think about it, you're a bank, they come to your website at least once a month. It's very easy to identify those people. Interesting enough, I bank with First Direct. You know what I see most from First Direct? £200 gift for new customers. I've banked with these people for 25 years. They have never once offered me a free gift. How does that make me feel? Right? They should know I'm one of their customers and adjust their communication accordingly. Equally, so that's £200 free. That's thank you for being a loyal customer. How can we help you? Yeah? Very easy to do, and that's going to move the needle a hell of a lot faster. So once we've found these people, how do we make sure we make a really good impact? Not just sort of, I like to say, it's not just a tickle, but we really want to move them. Who here would put their hand up and say, I've changed my mind recently? Right? It's not something we do all the time. It's very rare that someone walks in and goes, oh, you know what, I was wrong. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go and do something else. People don't really change their mind unless they're presented with something really compelling. So you need to be able to make a really compelling statement about your brand or product. And so, to me, the thing that gives you the biggest advantage is time. And when you're using online ad products, in particular TrueView, that time is a lot more flexible. And TrueView is not restricted at all. You can actually run up to 9 hours, 59 minutes. Please don't do that, but you could. So I'm going to play you an ad now. This is from Always. As you're watching this, I want you to think about what ads in this category used to look like. Right? I grew up in a world where ads in this category involved blue ink and girls diving into swimming pools. Yeah? Please play the video and show us what they look like now.
Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm going to just give you some actions to do and just do the first thing that comes to mind. Show me what it looks like to run like a girl.
Here.
Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl.
Aww.
My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Throw like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
Actually, I don't know what it really, if it's a bad thing or a good thing. It sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like you're trying to humiliate someone.
So when they're in that vulnerable time between 10 and 12, how do you think it affects them when somebody uses like a girl as an insult?
I think it definitely drops their self-confidence and really puts them down, because during that time they're already trying to figure themselves out, and when somebody says you hit like a girl, it's like, well, what does that mean? Because they think they're a strong person. It's kind of like telling them that they're weak and they're not as good as them.
And what advice do you have to young girls who are told they run like a girl, kick like a girl, hit like a girl, swim like a girl?
Keep doing it because it's working. If somebody else says that running like a girl or kicking like a girl or shooting like a girl is something that you shouldn't be doing, that's their problem. Because if you're still scoring and you're still getting to the ball on time and you're still being first, you're doing it right. It doesn't matter what they say. I mean, yes, I kick like a girl and I swim like a girl and I walk like a girl and I wake up in the morning like a girl because I am a girl. And that's not something that I should be ashamed of. So I'm gonna do it anyway. That's what they should do.
If I asked you to run like a girl now, would you do it differently?
I would run like myself.
Would you like a chance to redo it?
Why can't run like a girl also mean win the race?
So an amazing piece of work. But what's interesting about that is you try and cut that down to 30 seconds. It's like shouting through a letterbox. It's not going to work. But what has also happened is if I go back to the principles of brand building of mental and physical availability, I challenge you now to think of another brand in that category. Right? You can't. You think always? No? Well, that's it. Now, so they've now taken over the category. And that's a fantastic example of by how getting your communication, your messaging right, but delivering the best possible story really gives you a competitive advantage in a category, because you can play to a higher purpose and you can create those emotional reactions which really ensure that you are recalled at that moment of need. And that's what's incredibly important. So we've produced our fantastic ads, but you know what? We want to make sure they're working. And this is where Google's listened to all of our advertisers, because it's not enough just to have some averages. Most of you are very used to getting very rich data about how you're performing. So we've developed two tools. One looks at how does your awareness change in relation to the campaigns that you run, and the other looks at how does search activity, organic search activity, change in accordance to the campaigns you're running. The way they work, I'm not going to go into the detail, but as you can imagine from Google, we like our data, we're very experimental, and so we use a control versus non-exposed method, so you really are getting a very clean and clear indicator of the impact that your campaign is having. And what we see is this. This is an interesting one from Mondelez on the brand Trident. They had a lovely ad which started with this very handsome fellow who looks like my younger brother. I wish. They had one ad, it started with him chewing the chewing gum. The other one, he put the chewing gum in his mouth and then started chewing. Otherwise identical. They didn't know which one to run. So we said, okay, well, why don't you run them both and see what happens? The one in which he puts the chewing gum into his mouth actually had 97% greater ad recall and 36% increase in lift of brand awareness. There is no way they could have known that without proper, clean, experimental data. But that is money. That's free money. It's lying there. So now when we present these to companies, whether it's Mars, Mondelez, you name it, they all say the first thing we're going to do is we're going to test our ads. Right? Use this to test your ads. It's free. Why wouldn't you use it? You can actually have your results in as little as 10 days. But we don't just want to see the impact it's having on people's awareness. We also want to see, is it changing their behavior? And a fantastic indicator of people's change in behavior is what are they searching for? There's a wonderful article by a chap called Les Binet, which if you haven't read it, I recommend that you do, called The Long and the Short of It, in which he actually does some fantastic analysis and shows that organic search activity is a really good leading indicator of future market share. So if you have a higher share of search activity than your competitive brands, you're going to grow. If your share of search activity is lower than your market share, it's time to, I don't know, call someone from Google, get your marketing team, give them a good kicking, and get going, because that indicates that your competitors are winning in that vital space of mental availability. So again, we're able to do that. We can look experimentally, exposed versus non-exposed, at the difference it makes, and eSure managed to drive a 45% improvement. So we can show you the impact that your campaigns are having. So we've talked about how you can find more customers. We've shown how you can make and measure the impact you can have on those people. The final thing you want to be able to do is just to do that at ridiculous scale. Many of you are national businesses, many of you are global businesses, and you are really attuned to the fact that if the internet does one thing well, it allows you to scale a business across the entire globe very, very quickly and efficiently. And that's what it does. The great thing about Google is it's a great partner to do that with. So you'll know us for search, right? You'll know us for YouTube. But obviously, Google has developed Android, which is an open platform system for mobile phones, which is currently 87% of the market. Google invented Chrome, which is currently used for about 50% of browsing. Google invented Gmail, which in 2012 became the biggest email platform in the world and remains there to this day. Does anyone recognize this logo? Matt, you might have used it to get here. The most used app in the world every day. And then the final one, do you recognize this one? DoubleClick, exactly. So what's fantastic about all of these is the properties that Google has give Google more signals than anyone else in the market. We have more data to work with to work out exactly what do these people want and how can we make the best match between their needs and our customers. That's what Google does. But importantly, you don't just want to be able to output that across Google-owned and operated platforms. You want to be able to output them across the whole of the web. And that's where DoubleClick becomes so useful. So you can take the information we have, you can use it to find your customers, and then you can go and find those customers across the world, across the whole of the web. And importantly, you can use it on any platform you like, right? Obviously, I'd prefer it if you stick with ones on the previous slide, because that's how I get paid. But if you must, some of these are quite large, I'm told, as well, right? So you can use them there. And that's where I think I would sort of say the newer brands who've really been born out of the web have an advantage. Because the one thing that you guys get, which I really struggle with some of the more old school brands, is how do you do this and how do you get your head around doing this efficiently and effectively using programmatic capabilities? And that is increasingly the battleground. That's where everyone's saying, okay, I need a DSP and a network. And actually, no, right? You do need those things. But as brand marketers, you can actually leave those to your CTO. The only thing you need to remember about programmatic is this. 2015, this is the 100-year anniversary of Henry Ford's production line. Do you know that? And actually, what the production line allowed Henry Ford to do was to take something which was quite complicated, lots of moving parts, and produce them incredibly efficiently, at scale, incredibly high quality. And that's how I would encourage you to think about programmatic, right? You've got something which, on the face of it, seems fairly complicated. You've got to reconcile your customer journey, the right message at the right time, to the right person. That, it's hard enough to do it with just a room full of you. How big is that problem when I scale it up to the size of the world? But actually, that's exactly what programmatic does for you. It just very simply takes all of that information, matches up the messages, and puts it out there for you in the right way. And by doing that, you're able to drive the scale of your business in exactly the same way as Mr. Ford perhaps drove his. And the interesting thing that I discovered was he actually, back in 100 years ago, had a factory that was outputting 9,000 cars a day, right? Which is pretty impressive when you think about it. So I'll just leave you with those thoughts, really, which is the problems haven't changed, the tools have. Right? You have the capability, you know your customers, you just have to apply the new tools to the existing problems, which is identify the signals that's going to help that are going to identify your customers, really make amazing messages that deliver impact and deliver them in these amazing formats, and do that and think about how can you scale that? How can you, every time you put it out there, great, how can we get more reach? How can we make it 10%, 20%, 100% bigger, but really keep the quality of that contact up? And that's what's going to grow your brand much, much faster than the competition and give you your competitive advantage. Thank you very much.